Welcome back to another episode of Texas Platinum, ladies and gentlemen. You may be wondering where Trevor went. He actually unionized and negotiated for 364 days paid vacation and 24 hours of private plane time. So we're actually out like $50 million. But hey, we wish him the best. He's got a very talented agent. We're pushing for 3K subscribers by the Arkansas game. So if you could help us out by liking and subscribing, we'd really appreciate it. We're trying to get ourselves into a new studio, as we mentioned last time, so it would help us out a lot. Matt Myers, so I know you wanted to go big picture. Clearly a lot of talent at Texas. What do you think? Take it away.
Yeah, it was a very relatively successful draft by Texas standards in recent years. We had 5 players drafted, which I think tied for the most in the Big 12 with 5, more than OU. Most in the state of Texas, more than TCU, more than A&M. So that's a good sign. It's been a while since we really, I think, had that, especially more than OU, because it seems like OU's been churning out players left and right. So it was good to see Texas, at the top of leaderboards again. And I think there's some really good players that are, going to the league from Texas this year, especially like Osai and Cosby in particular, the ones that went higher. But, Sam Cosby went second round, 51st overall. Osai went to the Bengals in the 3rd round. Taquan Graham, which surprised me, went in the 5th round. Caden Stearns in the 5th round as well. And then, of course, Ellinger to the Colts in the 6th round. So, a lot of veterans and leaders for Texas over the years finally making that money in the NFL, and I'm happy for all of them. And I can't wait to see what they do in the league. So, we'll start off at the top, I guess. We'll just go down one by one and kind of – Madrid's our NFL guy. He'll kind of mention and talk about what he thinks – how they'll translate to the NFL and where they fit in roster-wise and everything. But, so we'll start off with Sam Cosby. And I know Thomas wanted to talk about Cosby for a little bit. So, Thomas, what do you think about Washington picking up Cosby, and how do you see him factoring in there?
Yeah, well, correct me if I'm wrong, but is it a hot take to say that Sam Cosby could have gone late in the 1st round? I think he's a very talented left tackle. I know he played right tackle sometimes at UT too. Would y'all agree with that?
Yeah, that seems about right. There was a lot of teams that needed O-linemen this year, so right. Him going early or late in the 1st round, I should say, wouldn't surprise me at all.
Right, and I'll send you a video of this, Matt Myers. But there's a clip from the OU game, and honestly, there's a lot of great film on Sam Cosby where he's just got an iron grip on the defenders. But he creates great separation for the line and protects the quarterback extremely well. I think Sam Cosby paired with Jerron Christensen at left tackle and Morgan Moses at right tackle for Washington. I think that's going to be a great combination. Not to mention you have Antonio Gibson at running back. Granted, I think Washington still has a little bit to figure out with their quarterback situation there. But if they can figure that out, they had a great pickup on defense too. I'll let Matt Madrid talk a little bit about that. But I think the Washington football team could they could have something there this year. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, definitely. As a Cowboys fan, I'm more scared than I was last year. Granted, the Cowboys sucked last year, just from the graces of fallen graces of Dakota, but this year for sure, because not only because of the Connie Williams pickup, who went to a great situation personally, in my opinion, because of how they're going to build their team. Look, you got Ryan Fitzpatrick there, so we all know what Fitzmagic is. We all know that he can light it up whenever. So granted, he's not like a star, but he can get you. You can move your offense down the field, and to combine that with Antonio Gibson, that's something to be feared. I kind of see Connie Williams fitting in this offense the same way. Connor Williams. So my bad. Excuse me. Sam Cosby fitting in this Washington offense the same way Connor Williams did at Dallas. They play the same position, and like most linemen, they kind of come in undersized, and especially in the Big 12. So I think he's more of a project. He might start immediately, he may not. But since they took such high draft capital, I kind of see them probably starting him. But yeah, he's the same kind of build and mold. He just needs to beef up a little bit, and he could be, like Thomas said, the film talks for itself. He's a great run blocker, and yeah, I could see him fitting in and meshing into the offense pretty well.
Yeah, Sam Cosby, he's definitely known for his freaking hands. if he grabs you with his hands, you're pretty much screwed. So he just needs to be polished up and definitely put on weight. I saw some scouts talking about how he was so strong and talented, but just his lack of technique, which speaks to Herb Hand at Texas. All of us Longhorn fans were not the biggest fans of Herb Hand. So hopefully he gets some better coaching in the NFL and then just blossoms into a Pro Bowler one day. So yeah, Sam Cosmi is a stud, and I always love watching them get their name called. He looked super happy, so it was good for Cosmi. But yeah, next up we have Joseph Osai, who went to the Bengals, which a buddy of mine was telling me that's like where players go to die. So I don't know about that, but third round, 69th overall. And Osai is just a guy, at Texas that you could always rely on to be the hardest worker on the team. He had one speed and it was like full speed every time. So hopefully it brings that to Cincinnati. But Matt Madrid, what do you like about him going to Cincinnati? Do you think there's a path for him to be a starter in year one, or how do you think he'll fit in there?
See, with the Bengals, I was really surprised at their draft strategy this year. They won their first round pick, Jamar Chase. Nothing against Jamar Chase, but I don't think they needed Jamar Chase. They needed O-linemen and stuff. But Joseph Osai is one of those guys I thought would probably go or honestly be the first Longhorn that came off the board just because of the kind of season he had. And Matt, you're not wrong in the sense that Cincinnati is not a place to develop stars or develop players in general. It's been kind of a dumpster fire there. They don't know what they're doing. Look, Malik Jefferson had all the talent coming into the league, and he got drafted to them, and I'm pretty sure he's not on the team anymore. He might still be a free agent. I'm not too sure. I think he got signed by someone. I don't quite remember. But, yeah, it's going to be tough uphill sledding for Joseph Osai at this team. They don't expect to have a flashy first year, although I do think he has the talent to have that flashy first year, and I kind of see him as an edge rusher, linebacker type in the NFL, because I don't think he's big enough to be a defensive end, a full-on defensive end full-time. But yeah, I'm nervous. I'm nervous for Osai at Cincinnati. They just don't develop well. But yeah, best of luck to him there.
Yeah, did you see Charles Omenihu? He was there at the house with Osai celebrating with them. So, yeah, that Nigerian to Texas to the NFL pipeline is strong. I think it started with the Rakpo. I think the Rakpo is Nigerian. So, yeah, good to see those boys, cashing out. And, but next up we had Taquan Graham, which really shocked me. I didn't think he'd get drafted at all. And he went in the 5th round, which is really good. I guess the Falcons liked what they saw in him. He was a captain here at Texas, kind of a journeyman, honestly. He always played pretty much like as a freshman through his senior year. He was always playing, always on the field, but he was just kind of quiet. I mean, he would do stuff but you wouldn't really notice it. But he had, 23 tackles last year, 7 tackles for loss. So Atlanta likes what they got in him, and I'm super excited. He was, a captain, good leader. So hopefully he can, earn some playing time in Atlanta. What do you think, Thomas and Matt?
Yeah, just very briefly. I'll pass it on to Matt because Matt Madrid's more of our NFL expert here. But I was pretty surprised that Taquan Graham went as high as he did, because we were previously projecting that he might have potentially gone undrafted. So, what do you think, Matt? What did they see there that you think they really liked?
So Dan Quinn just left. Dan Quinn just left Atlanta. He's with the Cowboys now for a defensive coordinator job, and he is a defensive coach. So they historically had players. You think about Vic Beasley, Keanu Neal, guys like that, but they never really put it together quite well. And you're right. I was surprised that Taquan Graham actually even got looked at. He kind of projects to be like your solid rotational defensive tackle type. He'll come in once your starter needs to break, or maybe if maybe a goal line situation, because he can stuff the run. But yeah, it's going to be hard for a 5th rounder to stick around in the league and not and let alone get playing time. I hope he does, because I think he has pretty good potential to be a rotational guy. But other than that, Atlanta's at least on defense is is a work in progress. You look at their games last year, and they were just blowing leads, and they were just hoping Matt Ryan and Julio Jones were healthy enough down the stretch, and a banged up Todd Gurley could get them wins. So I feel like he'll get his playing time, but just that defense as a whole, it won't shine at all, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's definitely got to be more consistent. I mean, he always showed flashes at Texas, but just not enough where we're like, that's an NFL player. But I mean, these scouts are smarter than we are. They probably know something that we don't, and hopefully he's a star in the NFL. So, yeah, good for Taquan Graham. And next up, we have Caden Stearns, who slipped a lot, 5th round of the Denver Broncos. And it was funny, whenever they announced this pick, all of his highlights were literally from his freshman year. And that's kind of just like emblematic of his career at Texas. I mean, he came in, he was everything 5-star out of San Antonio Steel. And then he was amazing as a freshman. Like, I was like 5 or using the Thorpe conversation. He had a bunch of interceptions. He was always in the right spot, super physical. But then I don't know what happened. A lot of that had to do with injuries. I mean, he's kind of was super banged up as a junior. And sophomore year was kind of similar as well, it felt like. But he never was the same as a freshman. So hopefully he's in a good spot where he can be more healthy and just play like he used to play. But what do you think about him fitting in Denver? Do you think he can push for playing time, Matt?
I think he can. Denver surprised me this draft. Usually John Elway is like, give me your quarterback. You go Paxton Lynch, you go Drew Lock. And I guess they're gonna just settle with Drew Lock and Teddy Bridgewater this year, going into fall camp. Personally, I like Teddy better, but yeah. So they took Surtain in the 1st round, and I think they was just trying to bolster that secondary for sure. They got burned last year. You got to remember what they used to have, man. They used to have a Aqib Talib, Chris Harris Jr. I'm forgetting. I'm blanking on other guys, but yeah, they used to have a stacked secondary. It's really not there anymore. So yeah, I think Stearns is actually a really good pick here. I'll be honest, I didn't think he was going to go that late at 5th round, but I'm starting to think maybe scouts were kind of gun shy when it came to his injury history, and rightfully so. We didn't, as Texas fans, we didn't see enough on the field to warrant a high draft picks. He probably has the talent. He probably has all the talent in the world to hang with the guys at the top, but he just there's not enough tape on this guy. So I think I wouldn't necessarily call it a steal because that injury history is still really prevalent, and I wouldn't be surprised if he barely makes it through now a 17-game season since they expanded it. That'll be tough for him. I think he'll play a decent amount though, just because of how banged up that secondary is, regardless. And I mean, if Brandon Jones could find his footing in Miami, I think Caden Stearns could definitely find his footing in Denver in that defense for sure.
And so, just real quick, so y'all don't attribute Caden Stearns going later to a lack of development per se. You attribute it more to, I guess, his injury-prone history. You don't think that maybe has something to do with Texas, or because previously he was projected to be a 2nd rounder, and so I'd be surprised. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think it's part of it was definitely development. I mean, he's had a couple DB coaches while he's been there. I mean, it's been a revolving door since Mac left, pretty much. And I mean, yeah, it's kind of been the story for Texas just in general. I mean, Connor Williams was a surefire 1st rounder for the longest time. Same with Sam Cosby and Caden Stearns. Whenever he was a freshman, he was a surefire 1st rounder. When he was a junior, that's what the projections were saying. And then sure enough, he just kind of slips. And that's been how it's been the last 7 years. We haven't produced many 1st rounders. So yeah, development definitely played a factor. But I think, like, if you had to weigh one against the other, I think the injuries were definitely a bigger factor here because he's got the talent, he's got the tools. I mean, he's a ball hawk. So yeah, I think they went hand in hand, honestly.
If we could just add to that real quick, in that development thing you just said, look at Deshaun Elliott, man. Like, the guy started really good for the Ravens. I'm pretty sure he wasn't a 1st round pick. He was middle of the draft pick. Yeah, he was in the middle of the draft. And look, he's a stud. If we could have developed that, or at least a fraction of that at the Texas, we've been good. Even I'm not too sure if he's still with the team, but Holton Hill. Holton Hill was doing great before he got suspended for weed in the NFL. But I mean, he was doing great. He was a great rotational and starting for some games. It's just these guys don't have time, and our past coaching regimes haven't developed these guys pretty much that well. So yeah, these guys have all the talent in the world. It's just they don't have the tape most of the time.
Yeah, it's sad, man. We need a first round DB here soon. It's been a while. We're supposed to be the first DBU, the original DBU, and I thought Stearns would be that guy that gets us back in the first round, but nope. So hopefully next up, I don't know who, maybe Deshaun Jameson if he has a great year, Josh Thompson, but we're probably looking still a few years out on that end. So yeah, Caden Stearns to the Broncos. Next up, we got Sam Ellinger, which honestly, the sixth round was here. It was going. I was like, is Sam going to go undrafted? I would cry.
Yeah, it was a little scary.
I think he actually ended in a really good spot, and Matt Madrid will elaborate on that. But just watching the video of him and his family, I think that was by far the one that got me the most, choked up a little bit. Yeah. Especially, I'm sure his dad would be super proud of him. So he's so happy for Sam, and, he's just like a great Longhorn, a great leader, a great quarterback in college for Texas. So what do you think about him landing in Indianapolis, Matt?
I think there could not have been a better situation for him to land in, to be quite honest. When you get in those later rounds, you're really not looking at – obviously you're looking at talent, but you're really looking at character guys. You're looking at guys that are willing to put in the work. And we all know Sam is more than willing to put in the work. So, of course, he's probably not going to crack the starting position anytime soon, and he may not his whole career. However, the guy in front of him in the second spot is Jacob Eason. And, Jacob Eason, they tried him out for a few games at the end of the year when Phillip Rivers got hurt, and it's just he's an okay quarterback. But Sam can out-hustle this guy. Sam could probably outwork this guy pretty, I won't say easily, it's the NFL, but he has a solid shot to crack that number 2 spot right behind Carson. And will he ever see playing time? That's tough. They traded for Carson Wentz, so they got a lot of capital hung up on that guy, and rightfully so. He's an MVP, former MVP candidate, and looking for a bounce back, right? So could he take that second job? I don't see why he can't. He's a hard worker, and we all know Sam. And it's, it was also just good to see someone as deserving of him to make a team. So yeah, I'm excited for him. I think that white and blue is gonna look really good on him. It's gonna look really cool, and I can't wait for the first pictures to come out. And yeah, I can't wait to definitely in preseason we'll see him ball out. I can't wait.
Yeah. Do you think so what do you think Sam Ellinger went a little bit later? I know one thing that I was looking at, and correct me if I'm wrong, was maybe that he doesn't work through his progressions properly, that he kind of telegraphs the play a little bit too much. And you kind of see that on some plays where he's like really, really selling where he's going to throw it there. Do you think maybe he just needs to work the field a little bit better and develop in that respect?
Look, you're definitely right about the whole progression thing. He's probably a one-read quarterback type. He's more of a playmaker too. But look, I've always been, when it comes to quarterbacks, man, I've always been like, hey, man, they either got accuracy or they don't. Like you look at guys like Paxton Lynch back in the day. You look at Drew Lock now, and it's just like, man, you guys got all the talent. You got the arm talent. There's no doubt in my mind that Sam has the arm to make it in the NFL. But man, you're either born with accuracy or you're not, and you can probably get a little better. But man, that's just all eye-hand coordination, and it's hard to teach that. And I think that's the main reason. Look, how many times have we seen a wide open, or not even a wide open, with some decent separation, and Sam misses it by a hair, man. And if he just makes it a little shorter, or leads him a little longer, and it's one of the house. And I think look, Sam has enough tape to it's apparent. So
yeah, I really think Sam Ellinger probably could have gone a little bit higher. A lot of it just comes down to seeing these guys winning in the NFL, and then their draft stock just improves. You know what I mean? And I kind of wonder how it would have looked with Sarkisian offense, because we know Sark likes to use orbit motion, all kinds of motion, and he might have been able to attack like a zone defense a little bit better with Sarkisian. But I don't know. I mean, I guess we'll see in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, Sam, like, obviously he's not the greatest quarterback at going through progressions, but what stood out to me the most was just he had really bad timing. He'd always have hitches. He'd be late on throws, and it would affect so many throws. And that affects accuracy too. I mean, if you're late in a throw, you're going to mess up. It just messes up the receiver. It messes up everything. So if he can clean up his timing, I know he's like, 22 years old now. He's probably far along. It's kind of who he is at this point, but if maybe the Indianapolis coach, Colts' quarterback coach, whoever he is, offensive coordinator, can, clean up his timing, he can be a really good quarterback. Because we saw him his junior year and sophomore year, he was so good. And I don't know what happened. I guess the receivers, I mean, hopefully he has better receivers in Indianapolis. But as a senior, when he had very average receivers, he was a liability at times. So if anything, Ellinger will be a great guy to have like on the practice squad, a culture guy, and he'll definitely make the team better. And, if Wentz goes down or something like that, I think Sam could go in there and, rally the troops and get stuff done. So, I mean, but who knows? Maybe he can shock the world and become a starter one day. I'm not going to write Sam Ellinger off ever. So, yeah, just like you said, he looked good in the uniform, and I'm just hyped to see him out there.
If you can have the career of Colt McCoy in the NFL, I'll take that. That's nice. Colt McCoy is known as a good backup quarterback that could win you a game. So if he turns into that, then I'd be more than happy.
Oh, yeah. And I expect Sam to beat out Jacob Eason.
Yeah. Me too.
That's going to happen. So, yeah, but that rounds out the 5 players drafted for Texas. And we only had, was it 2 free agents that were selected, signed? Yeah. Brennan Eagles to the Cowboys and Tariq Black going to the Indianapolis with Sam. So, and the most shocking thing about the whole draft, honestly, is Chris Brown going undrafted, unsigned. Honestly, if you asked me like last season, during the season, who would you trust more to go, I don't know, cover a receiver or go make a tackle? I'm taking Chris Brown over Caden Stearns. I don't know why like Chris Brown got no love out there. I mean, he was productive. He was a leader. I don't know. It kind of reminded me of Anthony Wheeler, because I thought Anthony Wheeler was really good in college too, but just for some reason, NFL teams just were not interested in him for whatever reason. So, yeah, that was shocking to me. But what do y'all think about the free agents?
It's going to be tough for Brendan Eagles, without a doubt, given the stacked receiver room at the Cowboys. You got Amari Cooper, and they just drafted CeeDee Lamb, not to mention all the other talent there. But, I mean, if he can develop and he can work real hard, then I think he could make the roster and hopefully get himself a contract. But I'm not really too sure, though, about that. But, I mean, I wish him the best. Chris Brown, we were talking about it before we went on air, but, Jordan Humphrey took a little while longer to get a contract. And I don't know, he made practice squad, and then he got a contract for $850,000 and then got cut and then got signed again to the practice squad. So, it's possible if they work hard enough, but you never know in the NFL. These guys are cutthroat, man. They're CEOs out there. So we'll see.
If there's one guy who I think, or an undrafted, it's a free agent that will probably make a team or a rotation, probably be Tariq Black. Not to say that the Colts have a horrible receiving core, Michael Pittman Jr. and Paris Campbell. They're just a little unproven. I think those 2 guys are going to be really good, or maybe Michael Pittman more than Paris Campbell, but they were good last year before Paris Campbell went down. But I think he has the best shot of cracking a rotation, just because I think they need bodies.
Yeah. Sorry for the pause there. There's a little bit of delay, but yeah, I agree. Well, I mean, we'll ultimately just see where they land. But what are some surprise picks? We were having a little bit of a conversation about this, and we got about 8 minutes left, so maybe we can move it along really quickly. But who do y'all think was the best quarterback prospect? I had Mac Jones personally, but me and Matt Madrid were talking about it yesterday and going back and forth about the mobile QB battle there. But what do you think, Matt?
So I was reviewing. So after we had the conversation, I went back and looked at Mac Jones a little bit, and I think it was a little bit too uncharitable to him, in the fact that He's a smart quarterback. He's a good. I literally said he sucked. He doesn't suck. He's a good prospect. The only problem with him is to be great in this NFL in the current modern NFL, you have to be able to move your legs a little bit. You don't gotta be Lamar Jackson. You don't gotta be Russell Wilson. But you gotta be able to make a play when it breaks down. I don't see a lot of that in Mac Jones, so that makes it infinitely tougher. But can he turn into some tactician that lasers everything and makes correct reads? He absolutely could. And you know what? He landed in New England and he didn't land in Green Bay. He didn't land in Tampa Bay or something. So he's still gonna be behind Cam Newton this season. But I mean, Cam Newton will probably be gone after this season too. Dude. So we may not see the Mac Jones train until next year. But I think he landed in a good spot. However, I really do think that Trevor Lawrence is going to be like insane. But I mean, that's not a hot take. I just think he'll be the best in this class. To say there's one pick that surprised me is Trey Lance to the Niners. If there was one team that was going to take Mac Jones, I thought it was going to be them. Because it just seems like that's the type of player they want. But the Niners said that Trey Lance had the best processing power and best intelligence of all the QBs out there. He was just the smartest. I don't know what that means. Trey Lance is the biggest question mark in the class for sure, just because of North Dakota State quarterbacks. Who knows? But he also has the highest ceiling. You don't get to see a lot of his games, but man, is that guy mobile. And with the young weapons they have now, sheesh, man, if that works out, watch out, because that Kyle Shanahan offense is just missing a productive QB. Jimmy Garoppolo, he's not it. He can't. He's a one read type guy. If he's not there, he's not getting it done, and he's not as accurate as we thought he was. But yeah, Trey Lance to the Niners was a little surprising to me, but we'll see how that works out. Matt.
For me, it was Mac Jones. Mac Jones was my number one guy, mainly just because whenever I'm evaluating a quarterback, I like to look at them under pressure and how they react when throwing an accurate pass when like a big dude's running in their face. And I thought Mac Jones was probably the most impressive in that department in this class. But I just want to say, I think this is the best draft class for quarterbacks probably ever. I think it's going to be the best one of all time. And it's hard to choose because like Justin Fields, I rank him like 4 or 5, but I still think he can be a great quarterback in the NFL. I think he's like had the smartest Wonderlic score or whatever. And I think he landed in a good spot in Chicago. But if I had to rank the top 2, and this is kind of a hot take, I'd put Mac Jones and Kyle Trask up in the top 2. Trevor Lawrence, obviously, that's number 1. But like I'm like 2 and 2, like 2A, 2B is Mac Jones and Kyle Trask. I think Trask is so slept on. I think he's Josh Allen 2.0. I mean, I don't know. I mean, Florida would try to run him a lot. Like, why are you trying to run this man? So I think if he lands in the right spot, he's got a cannon. He's productive. I mean, he had Kyle Pitts, which helps. But, yeah, I like Kyle Trask a lot and Mac Jones. Zach Wilson, I have no opinion on at all. I think he can be really good. I think people just hate on him because he's like a little 12-year-old kid out there. But, I mean, he's productive. I watched him a lot. So, yeah, it's a good class. Like Trey Lance as well is kind of a question mark, but I think he can be good. So we'll see. I think really good class, and I can't wait to see them all progress in the NFL and see who, like, not in 2 years, because I think Fields in 2 years will be like top dog, but I'm talking about like in 10 years, who will still be around and who will be like, a powerhouse in the NFL.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe we'll be wrong about Mac Jones, because Matt was telling us that he cried in his mugshot, so he might.
I'm not going to take a guy that cried in his mugshot, man. He got like a man, all right?
No mental toughness.
Yeah, right. It'll break down easy.
So is there anything else that we're missing here? Anyone that we didn't mention? I know we got about 3 minutes left in the Zoom call here. Anything to add, y'all?
Yeah, I got one thing. Ian Book went in the 4th round, which just blew my mind. Ian, like, come on, Sam Ellinger is better than Ian Book, I think. So that was surprising to me, but hey, I could be an idiot. So yeah.
One last thing, winners I just want to say the winner of the draft was the Chargers. They drafted so well. Great pickup to get. It was a Sewell. Was a Sewell? Sewell the first. I'm botching that, I think. Anyways, they took an O lineman, and it's something they took the highest O lineman, and they took Slater. They took Rashawn Slater, and that's just something that just shows that they care about the quarterback. The Bengals got a receiver. Joe Burrow is going to get hurt again. I'm sorry. Like,
Yeah.
you got to protect your quarterback. You got to protect your franchise. So yeah, the Chargers phenomenal. They did great. They did great.
So you don't think Washington?
Nah, I think the Chargers did phenomenal.
Oh, all right. We could talk about the NFL all day, man. If y'all are interested in hearing us talk about the NFL a little bit more, let us know in the comments. We can do a video just about that. But we're trying to cut these back on time a little bit, just so they're a little bit more watchable, you know, so nobody gets bored or anything like that. But Matt Myers.
I mean, that's it for me, boys. Thank y'all so much for watching this video and supporting the channel. Like we've said, we got some big news coming. A couple things that are in the works, so we're very excited to announce those. That'll be like a week or so till it's out, maybe less. So keep an eye out. I think y'all will love it. I think college football fans will love it in general. So yeah, thanks again. Subscribe, and we appreciate every one of you. And as always, hook 'em.